AI will help build more purpose-driven fintechs because it gives people more space to do the ideation and the creative discovery part.
Meet Jas, founder of Bitsul. He's built open banking-powered products, product strategy for SME lending fintechs, and helps organizations create, launch, and scale innovative customer-centric solutions. This episode is for fintechs, banks, and entrepreneurs looking to learn more about how AI can help streamline every stage of the innovation cycle and how to build better products.
Realistically, you could create a template and a framework to do it within minutes. It saves 5-10x in terms of time, and then allows PMs, POs, CPOs, head of product to actually do some creative thinking and figure out, look, how do we get ahead? How do we build a better product? That's the biggest question most organizations are going to have. And as long as you've got good principles, data structures baked into your software, into your tech stack.
Hey, before we dive in, can I please ask you for a big favor? If you are enjoying these conversations and getting value from the insights our fintech leaders share, please hit the subscribe button below. This is the easiest way to support the show, and it could mean a lot. My commitment to you is every single week, I'll continue to bring more founders and product leaders that share with us the strategies that are working today to drive innovation and fintech growth. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. Hello, Jas. We are going to talk about, of course, the topic of the year, AI. And more specifically, how do we incorporate AI in our ways of working, both to build efficiency gains and to incorporate into innovative products and propositions as such? I want to start with, I've been reflecting. I love self-awareness, right? And I think this is common across entrepreneurs and basically the tech ecosystem. I think we're very fear-driven. And let me explain that. We're always trying to capture customers' eyes, right? And wallet as such. And because of that, there's a ton of competitors. And our fear comes from, hey, our competitors may outdo us. Right now, AI is kind of like everyone has a fresh start, but some people are already ahead of the curve. So what do you think about that?
Yeah. I'd say not everyone, there's no even footing. AI doesn't equalize everything because obviously there's some prerequisites to be able to use AI. So I think those organizations that have solid foundations, great data structure, capturing the right data, have good cleansing mechanisms in place are probably a little bit further ahead in adopting AI to make internal efficiencies, adopting AI to create cool, fast-paced, consumer-facing features and products. I think it definitely makes it easier for someone to build something quickly and utilize AI to do things like, and I'm sure we'll get into it, like create a backlog, for example, that I think an administrative task that POs and PMs will do and might spend a few days on it, but turning a roadmap into a backlog can sometimes be a few weeks of work. Realistically, you could create a template and a framework to do it within minutes if you give GPT or Perplexity the right prompt, you could build all that out. So it definitely accelerates a lot of stuff, but some people are obviously further ahead. Those people with reasonably solid data structures and cleansing mechanisms will be further ahead, but makes things easier and faster to build, I think.
Love it. Amazing way to start the podcast. There's so much to unpack in there.
Yeah.
It is true. So you touched on efficiency as such. So many people would argue that, hey, efficiency is just like a company gain as such. But actually it's not. The more efficient we become, then the more space we create in our minds and our companies as such to build better for customers. So we know it's really hard to build and grow fintechs that actually help customers move their financial well-being. That's actually my definition of a purpose-driven fintech. But A, it's hard, but B, now we have AI, right? So AI should come and help us a little bit. But before we go into the how it will help us, what's your thinking around how do we incorporate AI in our ways of working and product design such that we ensure it's a catalyst for such that we ensure that AI is a catalyst for purpose and customer impact?
Yeah, I mean, I think you've nailed it with like it will help improve efficiencies because the when I'm speaking to PMs and when I've worked at companies as a CPO or fintechs as a CPO before, the thing that I always hear in terms of feedback is I don't have time to speak to customers, or I don't have time to do this like couple of hours of discovery on a new part of the product. I have to, run Scrum sessions and fill out Jira tickets and, be on refinement and do all this preparation for refinement. So actually, I think AI will help build more purpose-driven fintechs in those efficiency improvements because it gives people more space to do the ideation and the creative discovery part. And I guess this comes into the will AI replace our jobs? And usually the optimists, and I'm an optimist, the optimists will say, no, it won't replace our jobs. It will replace the admin part of our work to allow us to do the creative part. And I agree with that. And when you apply that into product thinking and create purpose-driven fintechs, I think that's the ideal way to frame it, to go, look, it can write a Jira ticket, it can create you a template, you can come up with the creative part and then let AI do a Gen AI layer with an LLM create the actual ticket itself. And then, ask it questions as you would an engineer, like pretend you're an engineer, what would you pick apart about this ticket? Write a ticket out, put it in there. It saves, 5-10x in terms of time, and then allows PMs, POs, you know, CPOs, head of product to actually do some creative thinking and go speak to customers and do some market research and do some competitor research and figure out, look, how do we get ahead? How do we build a better product? And I think that's where for me, the key part of AI is going to change product roles.
I love that because you're saying AI will be a catalyst to do the basics right, meaning speak with customers, understand them, and not only understand them, but turn those insights into actionable things that we bring into the business and the proposition. So I think a lot of people are skeptical. And it's like you said, like we have a ton to do, have so much to do. And when we look at, hey, let's implement an AI tool, there's an investment. It's not only a monetary investment. I'm not saying, hey, let's build AI. It's just like, let's use practical tools that are available out there in the market. $50 membership or $20 membership, but across the product team. So that becomes an expense, right? It's an investment cost-wise, but it's also an investment time-wise because we're going to change how people work. We are building the case based on everything that you said that AI tools should help us have commercial and customer impact. We will be able to measure commercial impact because we have our KPIs. How good we measure the impact of AI on customer impact?
Yeah, I think it's trickier to just attribute it to like AI. How is AI creating that impact? I think it's you just measure impact more broadly, and then you look at and then you go back to looking at the commercials, for example. So if there's a commercial gain internally, I think I see that as a benefit to customers long term because you're saving more money internally. You're making an as impactful and sustainable product long term while saving costs, which means you can reinvest that into going back things like customer discovery. But I think it's difficult to at the moment do that level of attribution to go, look, okay, we've got this metrics framework. Now we have to add another layer of how is AI specifically helping it. I think it's difficult to disconnect the two. And I think you just look at, even if there's a commercial gain with AI, monetarily speaking internally, I think that itself is a long-term benefit and creates long-term impact, assuming that things like retention rates are the same. All things being equal, if your commercials and revenue goes up, profit margin goes up, that is still impactful for customers, or will be in the long term.
Yes. And I want to add to that caveat, big caveat. If your commercials go up because of AI, and we are assuming that that gives customer kind of like has customer impact, we are assuming that your fee structure and your basically like your unit economics and your pricing are done in such a manner that they don't penalize customers for crazy stuff. So we are taking that as a baseline so that we don't misinterpret this.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's a science experiment, right? You have to keep all other variables the same. So assuming everything else stays the same, and you implement AI, and your revenue and profit margin increases, then that's good. But if you're introducing AI and then changing your fee structure or pricing structure, yeah, it's not very scientific, is what my physics teacher would tell me.
Exactly. Okay, so let's deep dive. If we look at product teams, that actually I want to move away from the word product teams, because I think by now most of fintechs work in a squad structure. So it's not just the role of the PM, but it's the role of the squad to deliver these innovative use cases, to deliver the OKRs, basically to help customers and companies succeed. But when we think about the building the product as such, if I am someone in the squad building product, how can we incorporate AI tools in the product development process?
That's a big question, because
Yes.
the product development process is, starts exactly. Yeah, you go from ideation, discovery to design to build to launch, growth and scale. And I think, I mean, for me, I call myself an AI centrist. So I'm not super bullish and using AI for everything. I don't really use AI in my newsletter. I don't really use AI in anything else other than maybe validating or collating some sources and then doing some refinement of ideas I've already got. So I think the best way to incorporate AI in the product development process is to use tools that already are incorporating AI themselves. So, for example, Miro, I use Miro a lot for like wireframing to just throw ideas out, and using the existing AI functionality of Miro to kind of sort out, organize like a workshop and come up with some summary notes, for example, I think is the best way to start encroaching into using AI in day-to-day kind of product ideation discovery. And again, if we go for ideation, discovery to design, to build, to launch, scale, I think on the ideation discovery side, actually Chat, GPT, Claude, Perplexity, all of that kind of stuff is great to do initial competitor analysis. Like, give me the list of all PFM apps in the UK that are similar to, that fit these jobs to be done, listing all that stuff out, coming up with ideas, collating sources, white papers and things like that, I think is what a lot of PMs I think are already doing. I think probably, this is a random number, but I reckon 90% of PMs are using ChatGPT in some form to do day-to-day PMing.
Yeah.
Same with engineers, same with QA, same with designers. Like I'm sure that they're using it for something, even if it's just, again, like I said, just, what are some competitors in the space, or give me like, what data do I need to capture for, an SME lending platform? What are the first few bits of data I need to capture to make sure that the decisioning for that lending product is as efficient as possible? There's lots of people are using it as a starting point, and I think it's an easy entryway into incorporating AI into day-to-day activity.
Yeah, and I think you raised a good point. If we're already using ChatGPT or Claude, it's the output is as good as the input. So, and fintech is very specific. The products that we create are very specific. So the input is very important. Have you put together list of prompts that you're like, hey, I have my go-to, or is that going to be in your in your next newsletter?
I don't have a list of prompts. And again, I think it's because I'm at the moment I'm treating AI like I don't want to hand off expertise and kind of outsource it to AI. So I'm trying to keep as much of that, thinking creativity as possible. And for me, it's like I don't know. I think the comparison is like learning a new language, and it's almost like instead of learning the new language and actually understanding creative process, I just use a translator. So whenever I go to France, I'll just use a translator. I don't learn French. So I still want to be able to speak the language. So that's why I don't have a set of prompts. So whenever I'm like, oh, I think I'll use AI for this, I'll just think about what is the best way to structure this. It's not efficient. It's definitely not efficient, but it's because I see lots of different problems as almost unique problems. And I try to go through that thinking myself. And I'm not comfortable right now. I might be in a couple of years outsourcing that creative thinking and just having a fixed set of prompts that I can send and get feedback from a GPT from. So this is just my personal, I think I'm probably in the minority being this centrist and not having a set of prompts, to be honest, as a product person. But I like to go, here's a new challenge. My first port of call isn't ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity. It's right. How would I solve this? Like, how do I need to think about this to get the best outcome? And then I'll go like one layer down or two layers down. Then I'll use GPT to again collate a list of the best white papers that talk about the Saudi market, or what are the 7 biggest banks in Asia. I don't need to go Google that now. Let's let the GPT do the work, and then I'll verify afterwards. But yeah, I don't tend to. I'm very much in the middle at the moment, so I'm not like, I don't have a set of prompts. I think in a year's time maybe I'll have a set of prompts, but not at the moment.
And I love that, because then basically you're answering the big question, the big fear that people have in their minds, that it's like, hey, will AI replace my job? And what you're saying, it's basically, of course, it can do a bunch of stuff, but we should retain that judgment and critical thinking, and then use AI to help us enhance that rather than outsource critical thinking straight away into the machine.
That's my position.
That's your approach.
And that's my approach. That's my position on it. I don't think it's, I know lots of people who they'll jump to using a GPT straight away, and they've got prompts and they might like put prompts together on the fly. But I like to prompt myself first and think, whatever the prompt is, I just try and think about it myself and just, what step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then go through that thinking, and then maybe go, look, steps 2 and 3, I could use AI for, but steps 1, I want to kind of still tune my skills and still like exercise that part of my brain. And again, that's why I say it's like learning a language. Once you learn French, as soon as you like stop using it, or you lean on again a translate like Google Translate, for example, just to do all the work for you, within 2 years or 3 years, your French will go down to such a point that you probably won't even understand it without the translator. I still want to have that expertise and knowledge in the background and still hone my skills, and then lean on it when I think, this is not a high skilled thing. This is more of an administrative task. I don't need to spend 2 hours, again, writing tickets or like formatting a roadmap. I've done 2 bits of formatting, replicate this formatting across all these 60 features. Yeah.
Cool. And I think you just touched on skills. We, as innovation teams, not only we need to incorporate AI into our ways of working, but we are expected to build solutions for customers that are AI enabled. customers are also increasing their expectations, right? So one of the anxieties that people in fintech or people in tech have right now is, if I have not built an AI solution yet, an AI enabled product, what's the best or fastest or most efficient way in which I can upskill myself so that then I can do the job and do it well?
Yeah. I always go back to experimentation. So I think the best way to upskill yourself is to start experimenting. And again, you know, try and incorporate AI in your own efficiencies day to day. If you're not using AI yourself to again generate tickets or standardize a roadmap, then you won't really know how it could best serve a customer. So experiment and experiment all the time. And then look at, I usually go and look at a roadmap, look at the set of features you've got in your backlog and go, look, where can AI improve this feature? Is it an efficiency in terms of data processing? Is it an efficiency in terms of servicing an insight? Is it an efficiency in terms of removing a bias? And then apply different layers to an existing non-AI feature and go, where can AI enhance this feature for customer? I think, again, fintechs are doing it all the time. I think if you look at the list of fintechs that incorporate AI into their customer-facing products, it's like Ramp have done it. Ramp have done it with their document scanning and insights feature. Klarna have done it. Klarna did it at the start of the year, kind of in stealth. They were like, oh, by the way, in January, we used AI to replace 700 customer service agents, and NPS scores are basically the same. Speed of call resolution has gone up, and AI, it's only increasing. Sage have got an AI assistant, and I think that they're using AI in that way. They're like, well, how can I improve experience for the customer? Like, how can this feature be better and more impactful using AI? And then they've started to kind of step into that realm. And I think that's what I'd say to anyone who's thinking, oh, how do I bake it into what I'm doing? How do I bake it into features I'm building for consumers? It's experiment yourself first, and then look at, does AI make this feature faster to deliver, more effective in terms of efficiency gains, less bias, and more cost effective for the customer as well?
Yeah. I like that approach of experimentation. And coming back to what you said at the beginning about many fintech leaders say, I want to speak with customers. I don't have the time to speak with customers. And many times that I need to basically focus on delivery. And I was having this conversation the other day with someone, and we were saying the reason why many people don't talk to customers as much as they want to is because it's not about talking to customers. It's about everything that needs to happen before we talk to customers. And it's not about even the planning. It's about the sourcing the customers and then ensuring that they are there. And then it happens the session. That's amazing. And then it's everything that goes after, from basically consolidating the research across all the customers, creating the insights, and then incorporating those insights into actionable items for the roadmap or for the company, right? So you were talking about experimentation and basically practical use cases. And I like that, because then the question is, how can I use AI to improve my user research process?
Yeah. I mean, I don't need to answer that question because I feel like you've just answered it in describing the process. So when you get like, and this is the challenge, right? Sourcing customers, creating a template for like sign off for compliance, profiling, then actually doing the research and then collating it and organizing it, categorizing it and putting it into different ICPs. All of that can be improved using AI. And actually, I haven't done this yet, but you could even create different user profiles and then speak to an AI version of a potential customer and say, look, here's the user persona. Here's like, this person is between 30 and 35. They're female. They shop here, here, and here. They work at this kind of company. This is their income level. And I'm going to ask it, like, when I ask it questions, respond as if you are this customer. And you can also generate a scale of feedback that way. But again, you've answered the question. Like, you've gone through those steps, and AI will improve every single one of those steps in terms of actually processing the data and standardizing it, and then just creating a summary of interviews. I sat in on customer research interviews, creating interview notes when you're speaking directly to an end user or potential customer. One of the things you don't really want to be doing is just typing. So having an AI recording software,
Taking notes.
take the notes, and then at the end you ask the note taker to summarize, and you go, summarize it in this way, and like pick out, oh, I remember asking this question, I remember this response, pick out, dive back into that part of the Q&A. So many areas where I think that's one of the biggest game changers, that it makes it a lot easier for, one PM to do end-to-end research, or a customer research to do like the ideation of a research sprint all the way to insights and outcomes. It makes it infinitely easier for one person to do it.
Yes, definitely. And I want to go back to the point that you said, hey, we still need to do the research, talk to customers. But having said that, today there's tools that can help us, even with that, if we don't have the time or the capacity or capabilities. I recently spoke with the founders of a company called Synthetic Users AI. I'm not promoting them. I haven't used them.
Yeah.
But I found it so cool. They guided me through the demo, and I was like, this is super cool. Because exactly, you just basically give them the inputs, and they can act as a customer. And the difference between using someone like them and ChatGPT is that ChatGPT is only based on ChatGPT data. A solution that's designed exactly to act as customers, they don't use ChatGPT. They use ChatGPT, Claude, and Llama, and all the list of LLMs. And actually, they optimize it such that depending on who's your persona, they will choose the LLM that is most fitted to do that. So, for example, if your cohort is women, there is one of the LLMs that has specialized, or at least optimized, to have basically to work for bias, right? So it's like, I love that. But I haven't used them yet.
You haven't used them yet? Yeah.
No. I had the demo with them, but it's in my to-do list, geeking out time.
Yeah. See, and then I think we're coming full circle. It's in your to-do list, but you probably have to try and incorporate more AI to replace admin, so that space to do the creative stuff and to like use a tool like this is more available. And it's not 20 minutes a week. It's like 2 hours a week of experimentation. This is the thing. I'm fairly sure I said this on the last time I was on, and maybe the time before that, is that one of the biggest challenges I've always had as a like product leader in a fintech is, how do I give everyone under me enough space and time during the week to go do some experimentation on their own, and not go, just write the Jira tickets, or just make sure you're ready for refinement. It's like, well, what can I do to give you 1 hour back a week so you can go experiment with a user research tool, or you can review some of the transcripts from the past 10 customer success calls to figure out if, there's something in the backlog that could solve a problem that 10 people have asked for, 10 people have called in to resolve. What can I do to free up the time? And the answer is, at the moment, is implement AI as much as possible for tasks, for like administrative tasks, so that they can, they have more time to do all that stuff. But it is a big challenge. It's a big challenge for myself.
Yes, it is. It is a challenge. That's why we're having this conversation. Exactly.
Yeah.
Because it is a challenge. So the next challenge that we have is eventually the leadership team will be like, hey guys, we need to build an AI enabled solution. We're like, we know. And then we'll say, hey, but what's the customer need? This one, this one, this one. Okay, but what's the use case? This one, this one. Let's assume that we've gone through discovery and we've found basically what is it that we're building and it solves a problem and it's commercially viable. When it comes to building AI solutions and designing, not specifically from a customer perspective, but like the ecosystem, it's complex. All these features are very complex. So when we start designing data structures, services, all the technical parts behind the product, in plain English, what are the other considerations that we need to take into account when we're building an AI-enabled solution that usually we couldn't think about now in a non-AI-enabled solution?
This is controversial. Well, I don't think it's controversial. I think all of the principles of building software stay the same. Personally, you focus on fundamentals, you build a data structure. Your data structure has X levels of normalization. It's low coupling, but high cohesion. And you usually have layers and message buses in between so that everything is kind of separate enough and manageable enough and orchestrated enough. And then you kind of plug AI into it. And I think all of those principles stay the same. I don't think there's any real change from 10, 15, 20 years ago. And that's because I worked on AI programs in 2008 and 9. They're just called expert systems. So a very low level of AI. They're not like AI we're looking at and seeing and using when we use ChatGPT, for example. It's not an LLM, but it's an expert system because it still uses data. It uses inherent knowledge, programming, and rules, but it's still AI. It's just very, sometimes I call it dumb. Even though it's called an expert system, that's the definition of it. It's a bit of a dumb AI. But the principle is the same. If you go one level up and try and build a machine learning algorithm, it still uses the same underlying structure as long as the structure is good. I think the biggest decision for most organizations now is, do we invest the time and effort right now to build an AI model ourselves, or do we leverage someone else's, leverage ChatGPT or Claude's API? And I think that's the biggest challenge. And I think it's the biggest challenge because there's a huge, like, the standard off the shelf in-house debate, but I think cost is going to become a big factor going forwards as it becomes more difficult for people to get the computing power to do it themselves. They might want to just outsource it. With outsourcing it comes a risk because there's an external cost which could go up, which is very variable. And if you build your whole fintech around AI, but that is not, it's open AI's, resources, then there's a potential that if they put the costs of each transaction call up, all your cost basis goes up. So I think that's the biggest debate right now is, do we see AI as a fundamental part of our business in the next couple of years, in which case we should start building it ourselves? Or is AI just a supplement to what we've already got in-house, in which case experiment, use the API, and maybe if that changes, then look to bring it back in-house. So I think, that's the biggest question most organizations are going to have. And as long as you've got, the good principles, data structures baked into your software, into your tech stack, I think it should be quite easy to build an AI, providing you have the right expertise as well.
Of course. I think that's a brilliant point, and I want to expand on that because basically you're talking about like commercial viability and technical viability. Because we can create super fancy, exciting, innovative user experiences. But if they don't make sense commercially or it's extremely expensive to build them, then we cannot build them. It doesn't make sense. So can you go a little bit deeper when it comes to cost? So what do we need to think about? Especially think about like if you were talking to a junior PM. like what considerations could he or she have to, okay, so junior PM listening to this and they are like, yeah, my CPO asked me to do this, right? And then they will work with the squad. They come up with a proposal with the end-to-end user experience, the proposition, how long it takes to implement. And then when I go to the leadership team, they say, and this is viable because we make money this way and we have these costs. In the cost structure, probably someone from leadership will be like, how about the costs of AI? And they'll come up with one layer, but it's like, what are the 2 to 3 layers that we need to think about when it comes to cost assessment?
Yeah, it's a good question. Again, it's easier when you're outsourcing it. So if you go to chat and they've got an API structure and they've got a cost structure there, it's very it's processing based. So you could say, look, if this feature is, for example, I don't know, to create X number of insights for one customer, and those X insights cost £5, then it's easy to go, okay, every customer who uses it, it's going to cost £5, but the return is going to be X. So I think that's simplistic. I think it is trickier to go internally and do layers 1, 2, 3. Again, if you've got a good data structure and you've got the engineering resources to kind of build a model, then it really is kind of layer 1 still. I think the complexity, the layer 2 and layer 3 come into play when it's, well, we don't have the data structure in place to actually implement an AI model or to implement AI powered features internally. So we're going to have to build out the data model. We're going to have to get a data scientist to actually pull in different insights to feed into the model. That's when it gets into layer 2. For me, again, those are usually kind of AI readiness projects. And sometimes it's a bit of, it's like a digital transformation project. Sometimes it's you're taking one step back, you're taking a big hit on cost to take 4 or 5 steps forwards. And usually what organizations who don't have the data structure in place will have to do that work anyway. But I think it's complicated to do it at a feature level. What I usually do is look, what is the return on investment, for example, for this specific feature? Is it, is this a feature that's just not going to, it's like an aesthetic feature. So it's something that maybe pulls customers in or differentiates our product, but doesn't necessarily see a return. Or are we looking to get a direct, look, this feature is going to be in the premium subscription. It's going to be standalone in that subscription. It gives us, again, £10 return per customer per month. And the cost is £5. I think it's very easy to equate it. But yeah, do the layer 2 and layer 3 with all of the other stuff, because there's so many other variables. It's super tricky. I would always go, look, what are we going to get? And then maybe speculate on the upper bound and then be pessimistic on the lower bound. And then go, like, what's the average cost of an API call using ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity? And then we'll just use that as the baseline.
Yeah. And I think you use the right word, like it's super tricky. And I want to go deeper. But before I do, I forgot, like, as you noticed, this is my new set for 2025. And then we're talking AI. So it's the futuristic look. And I forgot part of the outfit. So give me 1 second.
Yeah.
We have the amazing glasses that make the futuristic look.
Nice.
So I'm going to ask this question with the glasses on, right? Because we have future vision. So we just talked about cost, but they look super cool, by the way. I got distracted. So we are basically analyzing if this AI solution, if we should build the infra and what's the basically we went into the detail of the cost assessment. And you said, hey, but this is tricky basically to assess. So my question is, what's the biggest mistake or sets of mistakes we can do as squads when it comes to doing all this?
Biggest mistake. Again, I think it's always the biggest mistake is always picking something because you think it's the thing to build next. That's usually the biggest mistake that people make. It's like a CEO says, build this, and you go build it, and you don't do the full due diligence on it. So I'd say, again, the biggest mistake is not looking at what return are we going to get. And even if it's assessing that we don't expect to see a return on it. This is an internal efficiency gain. There's going to be no direct revenue inflow off the back of this feature. I think that's the biggest mistake, is not doing full due diligence. For me, is always the biggest, like, oh, let's build this thing because someone else is building it. It's like, someone else might be building it because they're already set up to build it. Like, again, Ramp have got a document AI powered document scanning feature. I don't think they're looking to see any direct revenue gains from it, but their back-end processing is going to be so much quicker. They'll probably need less people to do it. Sage AI, Sage Copilot, they probably won't see direct revenue gains from it, but they know, well, we'll get less inbound calls because the AI can answer some of these questions for us. So I think it's doing due diligence and understanding, like, what are we looking to get out of this? Again, it's measuring as well. Like, what are we looking to get out of this? How do we measure success? How do we review? When do we review? Review after a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. Is it successful or not? Whether that is revenue or whether it's an internal efficiency. And then going back and going, should we scrap it? It's not worth the cost of running it. I think that's the biggest mistake most people make.
And I'm like, all of that resonates a ton. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, yeah. So we, as fintech as an industry, one of our jobs to be done is to be more inclusive. Like, to bring people in the financial system, but not only bring people into the financial system, but to design solutions for underserved customers or for people from different backgrounds, products for women. We all have different needs as such as customers. So this is where the debate in AI comes in on ethics. If we say standard blank statement out there, if we were to say, hey, many of the AI solutions were created in a male-dominated environment by privileged people who have access to AI and the education, not by the underserved. How do we use AI in a way that we incorporate the ethical side and we start building for underserved customers?
Yeah, I mean, it all comes into the data coming into some of those models. So it's making sure that there's a diverse, like you said, there's a diverse set of inputs going into models that are being trained. And I think they have. I mean, they did a better job of it than Apple did with the Apple Watch years ago, when they had a sensor which was basically, the whole sensor was designed for a specific skin color range, and it didn't work on darker skins. And so I think AI has done the models that I'm using that have been trained over the past couple of years have done a much better job, frankly, because it pays to have as much data coming into it as possible. And then I think on the impact of the use of AI to create inclusive products, I think the great thing about it is that it's cost effective at scale. If you're not building it yourself, if you're just leveraging ChatGPT, it's cost effective to use AI to build an insights product that fits a load of different ICPs, versus if you're creating a set of rules to build a PFM app that gives insights to a specific group. It's easier to use AI to make that way more diverse, because you can go create different insights for all of these different profiles and make it more personalized. And so I think that's where AI has got a big benefit to create inclusion, is that you can create a product that fits so many more different profiles at not too high a cost basis. Whereas previously you'd go, I'll start with this niche, and then I'll slowly, open the bands and go to this group and this group and this group. Now you can do it a lot faster. using AI as an accelerant.
Yeah. I'm loving the conversation. I think we could go for another half an hour or 1 hour.
Let's do it.
Okay, cool. Then
Yeah, let's do it.
let's continue then. So let me ask
What do you
just
want to
like
carry
3
on?
more questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think we're in a good role. Okay. So I think we could go a little bit deeper now. And one thing is to see, one of the things that I love doing as a product geek is basically you see a piece of news that so and so fintech just rolled out this feature, and you check it out and you're like, oh, that's cool. And you start kind of deconstructing it. Or your own fintech app that you're using, they rolled out a new feature and you're like, oh, that's cool. And you start analyzing it. So I'll put you in the hot chair.
Yep.
What is one of your favorite AI fintech products in the market now, such that then we can deconstruct it a little bit?
There's one that I'm not sure if it's AI powered or not, but it's Clio. So Clio is a PFN app, uses open banking to connect various bank accounts, and then consolidate things like bills, the highest subscriptions, biggest payments for the month. But it has I think it's called Brain, and I think maybe it is AI, but it essentially just kind of suggests, look, you should move your salary to this date, and we can sweep £30 a month into this separate account. We've got a savings account for you. I think that's one of the better use cases if it is AI. This is just speculation, because it's again, it's kind of ticking all the boxes. It's like all of the things that AI optimists and bullish people say, oh, it's going to take all the admin away. We'll all be living on farms doing creative stuff because all the admin is done by AI. And I feel like this is actually one of those use cases where it takes all your accounts, does all your admin for you, pays your mortgage, pays your rent, and then goes, oh, you could save 200 extra pounds here, and you don't have to do anything. You just automate and hit the brain button, and it will do everything for you.
Wait, we need to deconstruct that because this is cool. All my friends have been asking for that feature since many years ago. They are like, I have all my systems, but I want to automate this. And basically, this is what Clio is doing. So if I step back, then basically you're saying, hey, they've built a money management solution where I put in my salary. Let's assume that it's my salary that comes in, and then they pay my bills automatically, and then they move money to my savings, and then they tell me how much I can save. Did I get that right?
They can do that. So they can do that. They will tell you what your highest paid bills are, and they will say where you can make efficiency gains. At the moment, I don't think they do automated sweeping, which uses VRP or open banking. They do, but they are set up to do it. So I think they're kind of ready to do all of that stuff, but I'm not sure if they're doing it wholesale. And I think the other challenge is not them. They're ready to do it. It's the underlying infrastructure is not there yet. So again, we can go into the open banking, open finance debate, but open banking is really, it's current accounts and savings accounts, really, some credit cards, but it's not every type of financial account. It's not all mortgages. It's not all lending products. It's not pensions. It's not investments. It's not money you've got in Cube or Republic or whatever. There's no 360 account coverage yet, which means that once there is, that's where I think apps like Clio will be ready to take advantage of that and have a 360 view of everything. And then once there's a 360 view of everything, and the technical capability is there and VRP is there, you can automate payment initiation. You could automate sweeping. You can do rate chasing. So, for example, I've got a savings account that's 4% in HSBC, but I've also got a savings account that's 5% in NatWest. It just goes, look, we have all of the metadata on all the accounts. We can just sweep the money to the 5% account. Let's take everything out of here. We'll take the hit on early withdrawal. We'll move it into here and after 6 months, you'll make more than you do if you have it here. that's where I think that brain has so much potential. Once the underlying infrastructure and account coverage is there, I think that's where it'll be a game changer. And you have this money management brain, which all PSM apps talk about. But personally, I think it's not the fault of the apps themselves necessarily. It's more the underlying infrastructure has not moved at a pace that most of them expected it to move. And I worked for one years ago, and I was like, yeah, the issue isn't what we build. We can build all of this cool stuff, but if the account coverage isn't there, that's the biggest pain point is trying to get access to all the accounts. That's the biggest cost. But once open banking is a bit more, open banking moves into open finance, moves into open data, that's where I think these apps will make a killing.
Okay, I totally agree with you, but I want to go a little bit deeper. Who do we need to nag? Not nag, just like push a little bit. When we say, hey, the open banking functionality tech layer is not there yet, we know there's in each of the countries, there's like a major fintech player. They should put that in the roadmap. But it's not as easy as that. So what do they need to do so that they can enable fintechs like us, like the consumer finance fintechs?
I mean, who do we need to nag? It's probably regulators, and it's probably also banks, because really to create an interoperable protocol, you need to have full buy-in. And I don't think we have full buy-in from everyone, because most banks have kind of seen it as it's a bit of a threat. Why am I giving, I've acquired this customer and I've spent 20 years keeping this customer, and now I'm going to give all this data to a third party who has the agility to build a super customer-centric personal finance product. And I don't, because I've spent that time, building all of these great SOPs and support frameworks and like the financial models, and not focused on digital so much. And now I'm being penalized. So I think it's a bit of the regulator, it's a bit of open banking organizations, and then it's a bit of banks, I think.
Amazing. Yeah, let's finish with the very last question. So what is the one change that we as fintech leaders should embrace to build sustainable, customer-centric, and AI-powered businesses that create lasting value for customers, teams, and investors?
One change, I'd say incorporating AI into the discovery process to kind of set the best foundation for fintech products going forwards. That's what I'd say, because I think AI can be implemented in a range of different areas. In design, you can use AI to speed up prototyping and build. You can use AI to prioritize features, launch. You can use AI to kind of tailor a marketing campaign, growth, to kind of monitor metrics and give feedback, scale, spot opportunities and optimization. But really the starting point is ideation. Even for an existing fintech, ideating a new set of features, ideating a new niche for customers, using AI to make that process as efficient and kind of all encompassing as possible is I think the one change that everyone should make. And it's one change that I've made as well.
Amazing. Jas, it's been an absolute pleasure having you in the show as usual. Awesome. Thank you, everyone. See you next week. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you, Monica.